Today we're going to be doing an activity called the Tree of Life. Creating the Tree of Life helps us to put our life story into perspective, helps us to see where we've come from, where we're going, and the legacies that we want to pass on to the younger generations. So to start with today, we'll need a few things. You'll need some drawing and writing materials, whatever you have on hand. It doesn't need to be fancy, because we're going to start by drawing our own tree. Have your materials on hand? Got some paper, pens, crayons, markers, whatever your kids have laying around if you have kids? The first step involves drawing a tree. It can be any sort of tree, preferably one that brings some sort of positive association from childhood or your younger years. Think for a moment of any trees that are linked to good memories in your own life, and then draw it. If you really struggle with drawing, as I do, you can use the template provided below. If you do choose to use the template, do something to make it your own, perhaps by coloring it in or finding ways to link it to a particular tree from your memory. It's important that the tree has roots, ground surrounding it, a trunk, branches, leaves, fruits, and seeds. You can add extras, but you'll need to have each of those components mentioned, because each of them are going to represent certain aspects of your life. Pause the video for a second as you create your tree. Have your tree ready? Let's get started. The roots. The roots of your tree are your prompt to write down where you've come from, i.e. your village, your town, your country, your language, your culture, those who have taught you the most in life, your favorite place, your favorite song or dance. You may also include any clubs or associations you belong to, any sporting teams you support. Where do you come from? How do you answer that question? Write all of those in the roots of your tree. You can also include photographs or images if you have those on hand. But don't spend too much time on the roots to start with, maybe 5 minutes. You're going to return to the roots as you create the tree. Take a minute to pause the video and write down where you come from. Done with the roots? Now we're going to move on to the ground. The ground is what we choose to do. The ground represents some of the activities that you choose to do in the course of a week. These are just regular things, but things that you choose to do rather than things that you are forced to do or have to do. Are you a reader? Are you a walker? Do you like to go to the gym? What do you choose to do during the week for you? Pause the video and write down what you choose to do. Done with the ground? Let's move up the tree to the trunk. The trunk is what we care about and our skills. The trunk represents what you value. Have a look back at the ground. What you choose to do during the week. Why do you choose to do these things? What is it that you care about? You may also place in the trunk the skills and abilities you have demonstrated in your life. These may involve physical accomplishments, areas of practical experience, like cleaning, or skills of caring, kindness, honesty, and so forth. They don't have to be in any way grand. In fact, it's better if they're not. Sometimes it's hard to think about what to include in your trunk. Sometimes it's easier to ask ourselves, what would our friends say? Or someone who cares about me? What would they say about me? Or we can consider whether we have any ability or know-how that flows from our roots or ground. But we don't have to include only our own individual values, skills, and abilities. We might include something that our community or a group we belong to cares about, or something that our group of friends is good at. Try to include a diversity of things on your trunk. Then, looking down at your trunk, try to trace the history of each of the things you care about, the things you give value to, your skills and ability. Whom did you learn this value or skill from? How long has it been important to you? Where did it come from? In responding to these questions, you may think of something or someone to add to your roots. In this way, you're starting to build connections between different parts of your tree of life. Pause for a moment if you need more time to write what you care about and your skills in the trunk of your tree. Done with your trunk? Now we're going to move on to the branches. The branches of the tree represent shared hopes, dreams, and wishes. These are not necessarily hopes that you have for your own life. They may be hopes you have for others or for your community. If you can, however, include a hope or wish that you have in relation to your life, just yours. This may be something you're hoping for in relation to the coming weekend, or a dream about the distant future. If possible, include on different branches, some longer and some shorter, short and long-term wishes for your life and the lives of others. It's then possible to trace the history of these hopes and desires. How long have you had these hopes? Where did they come from? How have you held on to them? Did anyone introduce you to these hopes or help you to hold on to them? As you consider these questions, you may be inspired to make additions to your trunk or roots. At any time, feel free to add to all of the different parts of your tree. Still working on your branches? Pause the video to continue working. Done with your branches? Now we're moving on to the leaves of your tree. The leaves are those who are significant to us. The leaves represent those who are significant to you in a good way. These may be people who are close to you or who have influenced you directly. You may also include heroes on the leaves of your tree, or acknowledge pets and invisible friends. It's particularly important that those who are no longer alive are still included in our tree of life. If someone has been good to us, their legacy will remain in our life. If you wish to include on the leaves people who have passed away, these extra questions may be helpful. Did you have any good times with this person? If so, write about one of those times next to their leaf. What was significant to you about this person? Write that next to their leaf. Would this person appreciate that you remember them and that you put them on your tree? Still working on your leaves? Pause the video to continue working. Ready to move on? Now we move on to the fruits. The fruit of the tree are the legacies that have been bequeathed to us, things that have been passed on. The fruits represent gifts that have been passed on to you, or contributions others have made to your life. Look back over the people and other figures you named on the leaves of your tree. Consider what legacies they've passed on to you. These may include gifts like patience or courage, or they may be material gifts that have been significant to you, or they may be skills or associations, like an old family recipe. Pause the video as you write down the legacies that have been left to you. Ready to move on? Last but not least, and potentially most important, we're going to move on to the flowers and seeds. These are the legacies that we wish to leave behind. The flowers and the seeds of the tree represent gifts or legacies that you wish to pass on to others. These may be similar to the gifts that have been offered to you. Alternatively, they may be things that you were never offered in your lifetime, but that you wish to offer somebody else. You may have learned the value of certain gifts precisely because you did not have access to them. Consider the legacies you wish to leave and write them next to the flowers and leaves of the tree. As you finish out creating your tree of life, take a moment to look back. Make connections. Take another look. See if you can make any connections between different parts of the tree. Are the roots, trunk, and branches linked in any way? If you're doing this exercise with somebody else, have a good look at what they place in their trunk. Choose one or two of these themes and ask them to tell you a story. You might say, for instance, "Can you tell me how you value honesty or friendship? Or how you try to be sincere or caring?" What does your tree say about you? What does your tree say about your life story? What does it say about how you're choosing to tell your life story right now? This storyline, this tree of life, is about what you give value to, what you stand for in life. This is your preferred storyline. This is what we're working towards. Take a moment, and if you'd like, preserve your tree of life somewhere where it can remain seen on a daily basis. Maybe a planner, a journal, a vision board if you so choose, or maybe it's a bit private, maybe in the back of your closet. I hope you enjoyed creating the tree of life.